Yourself, don't fall off of the shelf.
You must be the new boys in town.
What's that sound? Is someone moving around?
Sit down for a spell. You don't look so well.
Wait a minute, I feel great. You just leave yourself to date. You might as well just hang around.
It's too late, we've got to operate.
Just try to relax. It's the House of Wax.
Oh, I remember Frankenstein, shivers up my spine. Oh,
I'm for getting out of here.
need to shout my fear. No. Who will go to the cellar down below? Trouble is a bubbling in the brew. And when you got Mr. Vincent Price, we'll give you good advice.
He'll know what to do. You just tell him go.
We will put the voodoo in the stew, I'm telling you. It's like a movie. It's a B-movie show. It's like a movie. It's a B-movie show.
Welcome, girls and ghouls, to... fuck it. It's not even Halloween, fuck it.
It's not even our Halloween episode.
It's October the 4th.
Hello everyone, welcome back to IndieCent, and I am joined by Elmo and Tama. Danny could not make it for this episode, she's very busy with other obligations, and we understand, so hopefully she'll be back for next episode. But for now, welcome to October, which is apparently going to be a theme month by complete accident.
Spooky.
Yes, we're going to have 3 episodes in a row, hopefully this month, where we will be covering mainly horror games. We have a selection, a new game grab bag here that's got a selection of 7 different horror-themed games that I found off itch.io, and one we found off Steam because one I suggested before didn't work for some reason. We have... the next episode will be my pick for a regular episode, and I've selected something very horror-themed. We'll get to it in a bit. And lastly, we are going to be looking at the Suffering games with myself, Elmo, and Joe for the Halloween episode, just like we did with Alan Wake last year, so look forward to that. But yeah, for now, we are going to be talking about these 7 little indie horror games, some of them demos, some of them just simple projects. And we're going to discuss them and see if any of them are any good. And if you all remember the last game grab bag we did with the anime stuff, where everything turned out good except the one game about the original characters Do Not Steal, this is much more uneven, surprisingly.
This is more like the reverse, where they were all terrible except one, except that one was also terrible.
I wouldn't say that, but you'll understand when we get into it. But first, before we start all that, I figured before we get into what we've been playing, we talk a bit about the whole Telltale situation that happened a few weeks back, because Jesus Christ.
My God.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah. I feel bad for retroactively hating so much of their stuff, knowing that the people who made them were actually doing the best they could, and management just kept showing up and being like, "Oh, I changed my mind. Redo half the story."
Oh god. For those who have been out of the loop, Telltale Games closed down a few weeks ago, and there was originally confusion because Game Sutra published a story, but then everyone read it and thought, oh no, that's not right, they're not closing down, they're just getting rid of 25 people. getting rid of 25 people, their 250-person staff, but it turns out they were getting rid of 225 people and only keeping 25 just to finish The Walking Dead, and it turns out that's not enough, so now they have to hire more random people that they can get to keep back up promises to their shareholders. And everything's just over besides that. Everything they were building out before canceled. Stranger Things game canceled. The sequel to that one Fables game they did, I forget what it was called.
The Wolf Among Us?
Yeah, that's it. That's canceled. Everything but the last season of Walking Dead is canceled, and right now apparently only 2 episodes are done, so who fucking knows what's going to happen. And it got worse because it turns out the employees were kind of screwed over by management and have been working on crunch for years now. Because The Walking Dead Season 1 was such a big hit, they decided to chase that success perpetually forever and release 2 to 3 full games every single year with a very limited staff. And they were like working hours like 4 into the morning days, I'm talking about.
In retrospect, it's amazing that so much of their stuff was still actually passable and not just the horrible Walking Dead Season 2 and 3 and stuff.
Yeah, like, all those people worked their asses off, and they had to do it with outdated tech. The Telltale engine is a fucking disaster. They can't even work properly with Intel cards, which should be impossible for games of that caliber. And the only reason they had to keep using that engine is because management never gave them enough time for making all these fucking games to get better tech. It was absurd. They couldn't change anything in their formula because that would mean less time to make more games that were not even selling. Only The Walking Dead Season 1 and Minecraft story mode, and I think Tales from the Borderlands, but much less notably, made any money. And that was it.
That was a massive shock to me, because as much as someone who like criticizes Telltale games, or used to criticize them to hell and back, the idea that Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones, the rest of The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, even stuff like fucking Poker Night, and none of those were making money? None of them?
I think Poker Night was more of a Valve thing, and they just offered... Oh, yeah. Or, no, wait, no, it was theirs, I think.
I think it was Poker Night 2 that was definitely not successful. How do you screw up a poker game? What were they spending the money on?
Well, I think it's not successful because they put in a lot of money on projects that really... they just had so many projects and none of them were a big, massive success like The Walking Dead. Like, they tell you just how bad management was. They were expecting a Borderlands game to make the same amount of money as a Minecraft game. Oh. Keep in mind, Minecraft is one of the biggest entertainment phenomenons in like the last century, and Borderlands, while it is popular, has a very much more limited niche audience and is primarily played by action game players, not point and click fans.
Did you hear about the quote that one of the creative directors had on their door at the office?
I did not.
It's not a... This is paraphrased from a former employee. The quote said, "It's not about how much time you need to make a good game. It's about how good of a game you can make with the time you have."
Which is an extremely unhealthy ethos. I mean, Christ, we yell at BioWare for sort of trying to push out an Assassin's Creed game a year, and this is sort of...
BioWare?
Oh, not BioWare.
I think you mean Ubisoft.
Ubisoft. But to be honest, BioWare are just as responsible for trying to shove as much stuff out the door as possible, and hey, EA...
Are they?
It's an EA company.
Well, I mean, it's an EA company, but BioWare hasn't really done all that much in the past few years.
Well, no, particularly nothing of worth. But anyway, no, I meant
I mean, it's just like one Mass Effect sequel and one Dragon Age sequel, and I think that's it.
We're not getting another Dragon Age game, are we? But no, I meant Ubisoft shove out a game, a Elder Scrolls game a year, which is just insane. Not an Elder Scrolls. Bloody hell! Hang on a minute. No, there's Assassin's Creed.
The one big difference between like Ubisoft and Activision, who may have yearly releases for a particular series, is that one, they're not releasing 3 games a year with a very small team, and 2, they're shifting around the team so people can stay refreshed and take a break every year or so. Yeah, so like all the Call of Duty games are made by different people each time, and there's like a shifting number of studios that work on them and do their own thing. Or at least that was the case, but now that the new Call of Duty is going to be a Battle Royale game, that's probably going to change.
Yeah, that's just insane. 3 long... I mean, how big out... I've never actually played any of the Telltale games, so I'm not sure how long they tend to be or how complex, but that... I mean, even if you had like a fairly small indie studio putting out 3 games a year, you'd think that would be a fairly busy year for them.
Unless you're smart like the guy who did Five Nights at Freddy's, where he basically just took the basic thing that was working for him and just added little details on top of it. But for that's kind of what Telltale tried to do, except they were doing it with big properties with 5-episode installments mandatory for entire seasons. Yeah. I mean, and they were released episodically, and that episodic formula was actually a problem because it meant if the first episode wasn't that engaging, people might just not bother getting the other 4 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, to try to think, obviously episodic stuff does allow you to sort of stagger a property over time. I mean, I'm noticing that Square Enix are starting to do it a lot more, and obviously that's their big plan with the probably never happening Final Fantasy VII remake, but it's still at the same time, it's like...
Since they don't have the source code of the original game anymore.
Nobody thinks they're going to make 7 anymore. I think.
Did you hear about the original Final Fantasy PC port? The reason that was such a mess is because nobody at Square Enix had the source code for Final Fantasy VII anymore at that point, even though the game was still fairly new.
That's why.
So they just had to remake everything, and that's why there's a weird option in that version that lets you play the entire game in first person.
And then there's FF8, but FF8 is supposed... The thing is with FF8, and apparently this is why it's missing from the new Nintendo lineup, because, hey, let's just release all the Final Fantasies on Nintendo because we've given up any chance of having a new Final Fantasy this decade, is apparently Final Fantasy 8 is missing because of nobody knows why.
They at the time they just didn't know how to preserve. They didn't have a system in place at their company to preserve like source code and all that. And Final Fantasy VIII got hit the hardest, especially because of its weird pixel graphic style. So it's really complex to actually rebuild it. Yeah.
Suppose it's due to music licensing. I don't buy that. It's like, well, we can't re-release it because of music licensing. You wrote the music.
They always say it's because of the music license, but that's always bullshit.
Yeah. It's like, and and then the other thing is sort of apparently when they had to do when they did KH 1.5, they had to rebuild 2 guys. They had 2 guys doing this, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard. They had to redo the entire of KH1 with 2 guys doing it. Because they had lost KH, the original Kingdom Hearts. They'd lost the entire...
That's incredible.
They lost the assets. They'd lost the entire game.
This is actually a good explanation of why so many Japanese games that get HD remasters have so many problems. Like, even the Devil May Cry one that came out recently is a mess through all 3 games. Like, in the original Devil May Cry 3, since it was a standard definition game, it wasn't widescreen, and so all the art assets were made to fit into that particular look. Yeah. Now that it has a widescreen option, the background graphics for text boxes now just end in the middle of the text box. It's amazing.
I mean, the alternative flip side of this is every time they have redone Final Fantasy IX, because 9 is just still an incredibly well-made game, is they've had to upscale the background. They've actually had the ability to upscale the backgrounds, because the backgrounds are coming in something like... the backgrounds can apparently, for Final Fantasy 9, go up to 4K. That is how detailed the backgrounds are. There is so much in the background art that is there, but they simply did not have the processing power or whatever to actually make it look as good as it is. But anyway, yeah, fuck the entire Telltale situation. This is why we need game people need a union.
And it should be mentioned just how shitty this shutdown was. Telltale didn't tell any of its employees, and it was hiring for quite a while up until this point, and they're just like, oh no, we're done. We're bankrupt. Yep. So that means not only did all the employees not get severance, there's not, a lot of people moved out there to work exclusively for Telltale, and now they're stranded in San Francisco. Entire families, one of the most expensive cities to live in the world, and they have no jobs anymore, or no severance for any work they managed to do. So they're fucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, now Telltale is being sued by one of these employees, and he's gathering up support. And I really hope that goes somewhere, because, my God, if this really is the best example of why we need fucking unions in the game industry. Because, I mean, like, this type of behavior isn't uncommon for the game industry, but it's rarely done so openly and horribly obviously. That came out weird.
No, I know what you mean. It's just ridiculous. It's like you had that in any other industry. You'd have bloody like they tried to do, I think, when you had the writers thing and various other things.
The writers' strike.
Yeah, you would have the entire gaming industry shut down for a week, if not longer. You did that with any other media thing, television, film, music, whatever. You'd have walkouts and shutdowns.
I remember we actually did have an actors guild strike in the video game industry for voice actors, and I was shocked by some of the things they listed as grievances, including not even being told important things about the game or even what the name of their character they're voicing was.
Oh boy.
And it was just like, Christ, this industry's a shit show, and if it can't get its act together, it doesn't deserve to stay around.
I mean, frankly, if we compare it to sort of film, gaming is like still in the bloody 20s. It's only just getting to the point where you go, maybe we should make game about non-white people.
And then you have shit like EA basically bickering with an entire country over loot boxes right now. UK tried to get their fans to beg their government to give them loot boxes, stuff like that.
See, what they should do...
It's truly despicable.
What they should do is turn around and go, well, that's fine, EA. What we'll do is we'll get the Belgian FA to remove any Belgian footballers. That's it. You can't play as Belgium in FIFA. Fine. No Belgian teams. No Belgian players in any Premier League clubs. That's it. You see how quickly they turn around and go, ooh, we shouldn't do that. That's what they should do. Sorry, they should do. The Belgians should turn around. Belgium should turn around and go, right, if you're going to take us to court over loot crates, we'll revoke any image rights you've got to use in the Belgian football league.
Yeah, but we're talking about FIFA, so they don't give a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
As a British guy, I can tell you, do not fuck around when you negotiate with Belgium. We are learning that the hard way right now.
Oh yes,
Yuki. You're being drowned in waffles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of waffling going on in the Tory party. Not much else.
What other things is Belgium famous for other than waffles?
Tintin.
I'm remembering that line from In Bruges where one character goes like, "What's Belgium famous for? Chocolates and child abuse, and they only invented the chocolates to get to the kids."
You're an inanimate fucking object.
God, I love In Bruges. Let's just cancel the podcast and talk about how much we all love In Bruges.
You should go watch In Bruges.
I don't know what that is.
It's a film. It's by the guy who did. Have you heard of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri?
Oh, so it's a bad movie.
I know, it's a very, very good film. Very, very good film.
3 Billboards was very bad and racist, so I decided that all of his films are very bad and racist.
You would love Seven Psychopaths. It is the most meta thing.
My god, it's a 7 Psychopaths guy? Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Shit, I love them. Oh, god damn it.
It's Colin Farrell, Voldemort, and what's his face?
Ralph Fiennes and Brendan Gleeson.
7 Psychopaths works because it just decides, you know what, I'm not going to talk about... I'm not going to try to talk about serious issues, I'm just going to navel gaze at myself.
Yeah. What if Walt Williams had a sense of humour?
Okay,
So now that we have conclusively covered the topic of Telltale games...
In other words, fuck management, Telltale Games, and I hope everyone gets a job. But don't get it from Randy Pitchford. I know he's saying on Twitter that you can work for him, but he's a shit. I like Borderlands and all, but he's a shit.
It's just amazing just looking at... Sorry, just one last thing. Just looking at the properties that they had and looking at how high profile they all were and thinking, so they had The Walking Dead, Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones, Minecraft, and they were trying to make a Stranger Things game as well. In retrospect, I'm kind of amazed that at no point Telltale went, coming this fall. Your actions will have consequences. A 5-part Telltale series. Gangnam Style.
How weird is it that one of their worst games was Game of Thrones and one of their best ones was fucking Borderlands?
Game of Thrones, the most disappointing thing about Game of Thrones is that its very last episode, they actually put loads of effort into it, because a really important... You get to choose in episode 5 which of 2 major characters dies, and it completely changes what you're doing in episode 6, and it's like the only episode where they put in that much effort. But by that time, the rest of the game was terrible.
Let's be honest.
Meanwhile, Borderlands is just going all over the place. I'm watching an LP of it right now on the Super Best Friends channel, and it's hilarious. And weirdly emotional. I didn't expect to get sad about something in that game.
All I know about Borderlands
it's genuinely impressive. Like, if Telltale would just slow down and make more stuff like that every few years, it might still be around as a company if they got a different sort of if they did something original or focused on a different property that would probably have a wider audience that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Because like Borderlands wasn't gonna make Borderlands point and click wasn't gonna make all of the money.
I suppose they haven't had an Overwatch, but they haven't tried to do a bloody Overwatch. Point
Oh
and click.
god, that sounds horrible.
Talk to all the Overwatch characters. Hamster.
Have you?
Tall man. Other tall.
Do not even get me started on Blizzard's black hole of lore.
Oh
it's
god.
where personality goes to die. It's worse than Destiny, and that shouldn't be possible.
Yeah. At least this is the thing. At least Team Fortress's characters had personalities.
The Team Fortress comics are actually kind of hilarious. They get to do creative things, while meanwhile Blizzard's like, go to our website to hear about factoids that don't change your enjoyment of the game at all.
Here's another World of Warcraft
and they're
game.
all
Go
very
play that.
stupid and worse than your headcanons.
To be honest, it's
Robots
just better
bad?
Let's just headcanon stuff and just assume they're all
Hey, what if Mercy was straight? Hey Blizzard, why don't you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
They tried shipping Mercy, like, the lesbian icon of the franchise, with the fucking robot samurai dude, and I'm like, no.
The robot
the fuck
samurai
are you
dude is
doing?
clearly gay anyway.
They only let Tracer be gay by having her be gay with someone who never appears in the game ever.
Yeah,
it's just a fucking shit show over there.
Blizzard have never been good at actually writing games. It's why we've still got the sort of the World of Warcraft film, despite looking probably the best video game movie we've ever had and being directed by Duncan Jones, who makes really good films, is still a complete
and it's
load
like
of crap.
super faithful to the lore, and that was a mistake.
That was really a mistake. just do something cool. I don't bloody know.
Okay, I think we've gone enough on that tangent. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about the games we've been playing. Who wants to go first?
No. Sure,
I'll give everyone 10 minutes if you need them.
Oh god, I'm not gonna need 10 minutes. What have I been playing?
Okay.
Let's see. I have been playing, oh god, how many games this month? Quite a number of games, actually. So I've been playing Evoland, which is a really, really nice sort of love letter to RPGs, old and new. It's basically what happens is you play an RPG, your sort of stereotypical RPG, but you can get little things that improve the graphics, the music, and sort of you go on a little journey through what is essentially the history of RPGs, and it's really, really nice.
Oh yeah, that game has a sequel out.
Oh, which I have to play.
Phenomenal.
The sequel is phenomenal. I will have to play the sequel and probably buy it once this episode's done. But no,
I remember when I tried to play it on my old computer, but once I got to the higher graphical options, it couldn't run it anymore.
No, it is very. It is quite. Sorry.
Elmo, quiet.
I would just say something. God damn it. But anyway,
I got to the final boss, and that was when my laptop stopped running Evoland. But then I got a new computer, and it's all good.
But it's a fun game. It's nice. It's very much obviously. I don't know whether most of you people know it, but if you go to the link underneath this, shameless plug here, I wrote a webcomic, and it's sort of very much the same feel, which is sort of a love letter to RPGs and video games. And now I end my plug, and hopefully Dark doesn't delete this. Speaking of RPGs, and more specifically JRPGs, I have been playing probably one of my favourite games of all time again, which is Final Fantasy IX. And as obviously Final Fantasy IX is really the last true Final Fantasy game. It's probably one of my favourite games of all time. It's very... There's an ambience and an atmosphere in Final Fantasy IX which is probably, in terms of video game worlds, it's probably the video game world I most like to live in. It's probably got one of my favourite. It's got multiple of my favourite characters of all time. I haven't got very far in it.
Stupid, sexy Kuja.
Oh Jesus Christ! Don't get me started on Kuja. Don't start with it. Fuck.
Kuja is bisexual culture.
Kuja is just amazing. Kuja, the thing is I love about Final Fantasy IX most is it is because it's the last game that Sakaguchi, Utamatsu and Amano are really the sort of the driving force for the first sort of 5 or 6 Final Fantasy games. It's their swan song. It's a lot. It's very much, as Evoland is a love letter to RPGs in general. Final Fantasy IX is a love letter to really the first 6 games of the series, and really, fuck the 7 remake. Remake 9. Just goddamn, just do it. We want 4K sexy Kuja. And we stay in the world of Square Enix for the other 2 games I've played this month, because I have been terrible and I bought pretty much the other KH games I haven't bought yet, which are
so sorry.
Yeah, which is Birth by Sleep and Dreams
I'm
of
so
Distance.
sorry.
Birth by Sleep is an interesting game. It's good. I feel it's limited very much by what the PSP is, which is basically an underpowered PlayStation 2.
Oh crap, I need to take that back. That's one of the good ones. I was thinking of the Game Boy one with the cards.
No, Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories is not. Chain of Memories is probably it's actually ironically the hardest game to get hold of now. It's ridiculous.
It's also broken.
It's broken.
I was watching a review of it, and a guy was bringing back up how you can easily break the card system, and then the memories just kept flooding back.
And and then they remade it on the PS2, and then but it's only in Japan. And the first time we actually got to play the properly HD version of Chain of Memories was on KH 1.5. Everything is very circular today, isn't it? But no, I like Dream Drop Distance. It's the first game we saw which isn't just Sora or Sora's Nobody and Roxas, although basically it proves that Tetsu Nomura basically has like 2 ways to design characters. It's like, oh...
Also, the cast of The World Ends With You is there. Yay! But they're written by Tetsuya Nomura. No!
Yeah, it's interesting. To be honest, obviously you meet the Dream Drop Distance characters very, very early in KH3 in 3D, and it's kind of really painfully done. It's sort of like, oh, Nezu, hi. I'm going to betray you now to this guy in a black coat. Oh, let's cut to Riku, and Riku is beating Joshua, and Josh, it's very, very clear that these 2 characters are obviously a duo, and it's...
Why is Joshua there? Joshua is a fucking god.
Oh, no.
Spoilers.
God knows. Anyway, but those are the games I have been playing. Ooh.
Alright. I'll go ahead and go next because I want to talk about Borderlands for 10 minutes.
Hey!
Yeah, so instead of playing anything else, I still have several games I need to finish for Hardcore Gaming 101, but I actually managed to pitch to my editor to let me cover the 3 main Borderlands games, and he'd cover Tale since I can't run it because I have an Intel graphics card. Seriously. Well, anyways, I got curious because I was watching Tales of the Borderlands LP, and I was really into it. And I've always been a little curious about this series, so I figured, why not? The first game is $30 with all the DLC. I'll give it a go, and a friend of mine is actually going to get me number 2 and the pre-sequel with all the DLC very soon, which I'm very excited by, because I'm going to be Zero and snipe everyone instead of using my sword because I'm an asshole. And I am amazed that I've already played this game for nearly 80 hours and it barely has any narrative to talk about. And you know me, I'm that one story guy, but Borderlands, it's like if you mix together Diablo and those old X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance RPGs together and added more shooting, and it is fucking crack. It's actually kind of brilliant what they did with this. I think the reason they went so story light, other than there was clearly a lot of divide in the development team throughout the game's development, wondering if they should be more comedic or more dramatic, and they started shifting towards comedic, but not fast enough to make it all work cohesively until the DLC. But like, the idea is that you're one of 4 different vault hunters, a group of mercenaries who are going after a supposed treasure called the Vault, which houses alien artifacts or treasures or weapons. Nobody knows exactly, but it's a big deal. And it's on this shithole planet called Pandora, which is filled with Mad Max rejects running and killing everything. And so your job is to go around, help out the people, and fight the bandits, and eventually find the vault. And you have to deal with a lot of corporate bullshit as well, because the game has a lot of parody elements like that. And as you go along, you just shoot everything that moves. You collect guns that they drop, or shields and stuff. And what's crazy about this game is it advertises itself as having like 87 bazillion guns, when in reality it's more like 17 million. I'm not joking. The way the guns work in this game is that it's highly randomized. You have several different gun manufacturers that all have their different ideas of what a gun should be. So like, if you get, for example, a Jacobs, it will have a lot of firepower. If you get a Hyperion weapon, it's going to be very accurate, and so on and so forth. But there are also random elements to each gun you find or buy, meaning that even if something doesn't have a ton of attack power, it can still be very useful. Like, it has one of 4 different elemental effects on it that can do additional damage to certain enemies. It can have a scope on it, even if it's not like a sniper rifle or a revolver, and have ridiculous accuracy that you wouldn't normally expect. It can have a large clip, but if it's like a shotgun that has large clip, it has less spread, so it changes how you use your shotgun. I actually once found in a Hyperion repeater pistol, and normally pistols are just you shoot a few bullets and they don't do much damage. But the Hyperion one had such a high rate of fire, I was effectively using a super accurate SMG that had no kickback, so I could just point at someone's head and just pull the trigger constantly on a 56 ammo clip and just kill them with criticals. It was amazing. You never know what great thing you're gonna get. There's even hidden stats like the speed of the bullets that fire out, which greatly affects sniping, I've discovered, because like I'm using now a really powerful like 546 power Jacobs sniper rifle, but its scope is kind of crap and the bullets aren't moving out as fast as I thought they would, so a lot of headshots are missing, and that kind of surprised me. There's so many variables like this, and it just keeps the game fresh and fun, and the loop constantly enjoyable. Just going around, killing things, looting, completing missions, gathering experience, leveling up. Oh, and I really like the level up system because each of the 4 characters has a different specialty and their own special move. Like, Lilith has a cool phase walking move where she turns invisible and leaves behind elemental explosions. Brick is the tank character. I forget the soldier's name because I really don't care about him, but he has like a turret and can heal characters. And my favorite character, Mordecai, is a shitty hunter with a bird that he can send out to kill anything that moves. And it has an entire tree devoted to sniping, so you'll never guess which character I like most. Sniping and shotgun is so satisfying in this game. It's just like, well, if you have the right weapon, it's a one-shot, they're dead situation. That gets the perfect gameplay loop for me. Just going by one, solving the problem, getting the numbers to go up, finding more stuff to get more numbers to go up. And then you get to the DLC stuff, and it's actually really, that's where all the genuine story stuff is. Like, the first one is a zombie-themed one, but it's also really tongue-in-cheek. You're not sure if it's even canon, the way characters are talking. Like, the bad guy is just clearly the doctor character from the main campaign, except now he has a mustache. Plastered not on his face, but on the mask he has over his face. And then Borderlands 2 is like, no, wait, that was canon. Look, here's a picture of the doctor and his brother with the mustache over his mask. It's canon. that's great. There's a lot of funny bits in it. The Moxie DLC is just some really fun combat challenges. But then you get to... I was initially really mad at the DLC where you're fighting against the Atlas Corporation, because it has some of the best writing in the game with a villain who just really doesn't want to be there right now and hates his job, and he like works for like a 5-year-old because of nepotism, and he just doesn't care, but he's still going to kill you because it's his job. It's great, but it has a lot of car combat and it's not fun. But once you figure out you can just cheese the car combat, it becomes a lot more enjoyable. And then you get to the final one, and it's the cute claptrap robots. They're like the big mascot of the series. Are like going all kill all humans and starting a fucking communist revolution, and it's hilarious. Like, it's a very messy game, but it has a fun loop, and you can definitely see where they were getting all their ideas lined up for Borderlands 2, which I'm really excited to get to, just for all the Handsome Jack stuff. And I also even don't mind the ridiculous amounts of DLCs for these games, because all the campaigns are pretty meaty. You get a lot to do, there's a lot of story content, and it's always something new to keep things fresh. Like, the zombie DLC is a breath of fresh air, because the way most of the enemies work in that DLC is radically different from anything else in the game. So it's really fun and makes you change around your strategies. So yeah. Borderlands, really good, surprisingly complex, well-balanced game. I would recommend it, but if you need more story content, I'll get back to you once I get into 2 in the pre-sequel. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Sorry.
Hooray!
Go on, Elmo.
Can you let me know when I get 5 minutes in case I need to adjust? Speaking of fighting against the Atlas Corporation, this is a fantastic segue. I started Catherine.
Okay.
Atlas. That's the joke.
I don't remember. Oh, wait. Are you talking about... Oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. It took me a while. I actually forgot that game existed, but then I remembered the terrible transphobic advertising they did for the remaster, and now I'm mad again.
Yeah. I'm playing around my best friend's house. I went around once, and I beat levels 1, 2, 3, and thought, wow, this is a pretty good game. Then I went around and played levels 4 and 5, and I was like, wow, this game gets hard, and kind of unenjoyably hard, really quickly. And last time I went around, I beat level 6. It took me the same amount of time on all of those visits playing those games. So yeah, I get that people are saying, like, it's an Atlas game, of course it's hard. But to me, that just sounds like when someone says, it's herpes, of course it sucks.
That's weird because only the Shin Megami Tensei games are really genuine bullshit. Persona is like the easy version of it. Like, there is insta-death stuff, but there's so many ways to deal with it that it hardly matters.
And then you have Shin Megami Tensei, you have Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, in which, spoilers, you fight God. Anyway,
that's every Shin Megami Tensei game.
Yeah, you always fight God in
except 3 for some reason.
Anyway, you should mention 3 because the protagonist of 3 is the most powerful and the most difficult to defeat boss in Digital Devil Saga. Because
he's like one of the most difficult RPG bosses ever made. Though it's partly because you have to fight him early in the game if you choose to fight him.
I have 5 other games, so I'm going to really rush through them.
Go.
Okay, go on.
I really hate the way I take notes because I always take note, like, my next game, it's the first one I wrote down because it was the first one I started playing after the next episode. So even though it's not a particularly interesting game, Ultimate NES Remix. It's not particularly interesting, but it is really good. I really enjoyed it. I still think it exists because Nintendo locked an intern in an office all day and just went, come up with a new game. And the intern looked around and went, oh, well, fuck this, I'm going to play WarioWare. And they just played WarioWare all day, and at the end of the day, their idea was WarioWare, but Nintendo. And everyone loved it. I think it fulfills its mission pretty well. It's a decent advert for the getting NES games. It's good and bad in that I really like Excitebike now. Wasn't that into Excitebike, and then played it on this, and I was like, wow, this is actually really fun.
You should make sure to download a ROM of it, just like Nintendo did.
Yeah.
And stuck it on the NES Mini.
And it goes the other way, though, too, because remember the original Mario Bros. Game, the one with the 2 pipes and the enemies? That game just sucks. And we should just stop pretending it's good. The final challenge, once you beat every single mission in the game, is there's a 44-part level where you have 6 lives, and the goal is to complete every single super mushroom in Super Mario Brothers. That was horrible but brilliant. And also, there's one more level after that, and it's just, the goal is just watch the credits for Super Mario Brothers 2, 3, and Dr. Mario, which I was surprised to find out had credits. Anyway, I'd like to thank Stormy Daniels for ruining Mario Kart 7 right when I was in the middle of it.
Oh, dear.
Yep. There's kind of a threshold as to how much.
Oh, you just reminded me when Movie Bob did a thing about that for a review that he was doing that had nothing to do with Mario. And it was a really unfunny joke where his eyes lit on fire and he was mad because his childhood was ruined or some bullshit.
Oh, maybe, Bob.
I'm so glad I unsubscribed from his channel and just watch his movie reviews on like Geek.com, which as far as I can tell is a YouTube website. It's a YouTube channel that only gets hits from Movie Bob and nothing else.
Like The Escapist, really artsy.
Yeah.
So Mario Kart 7...
Because Yahtzee isn't openly racist.
It's just subtly racist.
He's just... No, I wouldn't say that. He's just a shit.
Yeah. Mario Kart 7, I don't like it if I don't enjoy a game and someone says, oh, you're playing the game wrong. Mario Kart 7, they kind of had a point. I just do the single player, and you know, playing single player Mario Kart, you just get hit by blue shells and stars and lightning bolts and bullet bills the whole time. And I play them to beat them, like I play any other game. So I do every 50cc cup, then 100cc, then 150cc, then mirror, and then I look back at stuff like, okay, so there were a few races here where it turns out that I only got 1 star, and all of the rest of them are 2 stars.
Oh, you're past 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And I had a thing, I lost it. Well,
you're wasting time!
Sorry! Not good at Mario. Oh yeah, that was the thing. I finished all of my Mario Kart business, and I told my friend, well, I'm glad that's over. Phew, Mario Kart. Ugh. And he went, it's Saturday. And I went, yeah? And he went, didn't you just get Mario Kart 7 on Wednesday? And I went, oh yeah. You got a point. Kirby's Epic Yarn. Fantastic. My favourite Kirby game. Which, surprisingly, isn't saying that much outside of Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land games. I guess there's Kirby Superstar and stuff. But yeah, Kirby's Epic Yarn is fantastic.
64.
64's okay.
For me, 64 and Epic Yarn are tied for the top because 64's combo system is just too much fun. But Kirby's Epic Yarn is basically what if a mug of hot cocoa filled with marshmallows was a game.
It's so brilliant. And I know that there are some people who like challenges in their games. I like challenging games, but if you think Kirby's Epic Yarn, like, oh yeah, it's really entertaining and fun and happy, but it's way too easy, there's no challenge, then I would like to come around your house and beat you with an alarm clock every
They're
morning.
Literally playing the game wrong.
Clearly.
Oh, you just have to beat the levels. No, you collect the beat, you fuck.
Clearly, waking up is too easy for you, and it needs to be more challenging. So from now on, I'm just going to break into your house and throw bricks at you. You know, since you like challenge so much. Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy, and not, as my autocorrect seems to think, it is the Aryan Legacy. It's another good Professor Layton game. Probably not as good as Miracle Mask, but still really good. The one thing that I just feel kind of embarrassed about is that it's the first 3DS game where I've found out about play coins, because to buy some of the objects in Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy to finish your collection, you need to complete challenges which are find 3 random items that are in the game world, and you get these by Street Pass. I don't do Street Pass, but you can also buy these challenges.
If you don't live in Japan, Street Pass is effectively useless.
Yep. And there's another way to buy these challenges, but you need to use play coins, and I had no idea what play coins were. And then I found out if you leave your DS on sleep mode and take 1,000 steps a day, it gives you 10 play coins. So this lunchtime at work, I thought, well, I'm going to go for a walk around the park a few times. Every 10 minutes I took my 3DS out and changed the day so that I could get more hint coins. And by the end of my lunchtime I was like, aha, joke's on you, Nintendo. I just walked 2.4 kilometers for fun, for a game. And honestly, it was quite nice in the park. And when you think about other microtransactions, the fact that you've just encouraged me to walk around and get some exercise, yeah, up yours, Nintendo. I'm gaming this system. Took me a while to realise that they'd just accidentally made me do something good. I guess you can call me HAL Laboratory, because I wasn't previously owned by Nintendo, but now I kind of am. And finally,
1 minute.
I finished Splinter Cell Blacklist. I softened on it a lot after.
I'm so sorry.
Because the first thing I did in the game was have to unlock all of the stealth stuff, then the rest of the game was actually really fun because I was able to be stealthy. I just want to talk about the best and worst bits of the game. Worst bit is when you hold a guy hostage and you have the choice of sparing him or killing him, and I chose spare because I thought he'd be more useful alive, so he lunged at me, grabbed Sam Fisher's gun and made him shoot himself. So that was useless. The best bit was I was sneaking up on 2 guys. It was one of those abandoned buildings that's now a chemical weapons facility. Sneaking up on 2 of them, and they were standing in front of a burnt-out oil drum with some fire at the bottom, and they were both waving their arms, and I couldn't figure out why. And I also couldn't get to them from that angle without them seeing me, so I went around from another angle. They were doing shadow puppets on the wall! They didn't have any voice lines. It was just two random guards, and they were entertaining each other by doing shadow puppets on the wall. And Ubisoft find the person who put that in the game and put them in charge of the entire Splinter Cell franchise. That's such a nice little touch. Other than that, the story is still terrible, and everyone talks to each other like it's a... Like, you know, that was those political action thrillers where everyone sounds like they just hate working with each other? Well, it was that.
Liam Neeson does.
Alright, I believe that's our segment done. Let's go ahead and get into the main discussion. And we will start, and we will be going in reverse alphabetical order, except I refuse to let Dark Place be the last game we talk about because it's a wet fart. So we will be switching that with Don't Freak Part 1, so look forward to that. We saved the best for last. But yeah, so let's go ahead and start us off with the first game, Wake Me Up by JT.
Wake me up inside!
Can't wake up.
Wake me up inside!
Wake me up before you go. Don't leave me hanging there like a yo-yo.
I just want to point out, because as Tama said, we're recording this on the 4th of October. This is literally Wake Me Up when September ends. God, I love that.
If only the game was as good as that joke.
It's not.
I'm gonna say right now, I have mixed feelings on a lot of these games, and it's kind of sad that I consider this one of the better games I played of this collection.
I just want to say that the very
first... It's like
first...
dead in the middle. It's like dead in the middle somewhere.
The first comment on the itch... I know it's itch.io, but I just keep calling it itch.io.
That's
like some kind of Mario-based STD. The first comment on the itch.io download page just made me laugh because it just says, "Hi, I just played this game, and I have a lot of advice on how to make better and scarier games in the future."
Fortnite.
That was it. Yeah.
Make it Fortnite. You should play Fortnite. Yeah. That will increase your subscriber count.
Battle Royale horror games.
Actually, that does exist, and I think it was the first Calling, and it was apparently pretty good. And then they made the second Calling, and it was just a direct ripoff of PUBG, and everyone hated it, and it got canceled in a few days.
Oh dear. Anyway,
did you see
video games?
Did you see the amazing things advertised on Wakes Me Up's page? It advertised moving sprites. That's pretty good.
That's actually pretty good for an indie studio.
Tons of mysteries. Also good. And jump scares.
Lots of those.
I missed that when I picked this out.
So, if I remember correctly, this is the one where I think I could not get this game to run.
Bad dad.
But I think
Oh yeah, this was the one you couldn't get to run. The one I couldn't get to run was Writer, so I just removed it from the lineup and replaced it with the Static Knows My Name. Like, when I tried to start Writers, I was surprised, because I downloaded it twice, just to make sure this wasn't a problem on my end where I did the download wrong. Apparently, there's an image missing that the game needs to load that it can't find, and so while I would get music, nothing else would come on screen, making the game completely unplayable.
It's got good music. I went and watched a Let's Play for this, and it was alright.
Can I do a dramatic reading of the game's opening text?
Go for it.
Please.
I had a dream where colours were unseen. That place was so dark, and I can't see those creatures that may lurk. But I pray before I wake, the Lord my soul to take. I had a dream, then it all went wrong.
Can't wait.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
Okay,
that last bit wasn't in there.
No, I'm stopping that.
Yeah, stop.
I already started this podcast with a fucking Disney song. We're in enough trouble as it is.
Yeah.
We don't want to be sued by lesbians. That's how we lose money.
Wake Me Up is very annoying to me because there are good ideas here. Like, I like the art style in general, all the black and white focus, the use of silhouettes. But everything, and I actually think the sound design is really good when it's not doing jump scares, but everything else is...
generic and stereotypical.
If you're the dev of this game,
bad.
get in touch with me and I will write your text for free.
Why does he say fucking shit that much?
I was here last week. I was dreaming. Then my mom waked me up.
Can't wake up.
Also, it's like, after I got a jump scare and died, then the ending that was one of the endings, and it just said, I was dreaming. And I never dreamed that dream again. Bad end. It's like,
that was actually the good end because he didn't go to jail. Oh no,
go to jail in this game?
Oh no.
Okay, so the basic premise is you're just some dude who doesn't seem to remember who he is or anything in general and is clearly in a dream world with no people except one creepy silhouette girl with who hilariously has a creepy smile, just complete photoshopped from what I imagine is some terrible 90s fad toy. It looks like something you see on a bad t-shirt for a mischievous character peeing on a logo. Why did you do that? I mean, like, the eye effect was kind of bad with that character, but like it would have been serviceable if you just didn't have the fucking smile. And also there is the thing, the monster thing, whatever it is. It's just a thing. It also has the dumb smile thing on one shot when you're looking at it from far away in the shadows. You just see the dumb smile, and I got mad.
The feeling with this game that I got is this would have been a lot better had it been made in something proprietary like RPG Maker.
I would not say that.
But the problem is, at that point, it would just have felt like a lot of the Dream Exploration games, because wow, there are a lot of Dream Exploration games.
Well, no, because it's not really a Dream Exploration game. It is.
What?
Well, let me explain. Let me explain what this isn't like Yume Nikki or any games kind of like that, or even those other horror-themed RPG Maker games that make the rounds like Mad Father Misato, or is it Misao? I forget how you pronounce it. But it's not like those. It's a very simple story that's clearly just that ends up ripping off one of the dumbest, laziest twists in all of horror ever, instead of doing anything interesting. And like, if it didn't have those story elements and was just focused on being a strange mood piece that you could read into, I would be more okay with it, especially if you got rid of that dumb smile. Like, I'll forgive a lot of the cheapness because this is a free project from like a small developer. That's fine, but like, but the writing is awful.
Yeah.
All of the writing is the worst, and I hate it.
From the little sample that Elmo gave us, wow, that was the most
This is your daughter! Do you get it yet?
No.
She calls you Papa. Do you get it yet?
My mom waked me up.
That's one of the first things she says to you. She calls you Papa. You're giving away the twist here. Fuck.
I know it was
Remember in the very first level of Killer 7 where some guy calls you Amir and you chalk it up as like, oh, that's weird calling me that for no reason. And then like 12 hours later you're like, oh fuck.
Well, yeah, this is like that if
that was bad.
If it like forgot what build-up is or what twists were. I love that the two final endings you can get are either don't look under the bed and then you go to jail and you don't know why, or do look under the bed and discover that you were actually a murderer, which makes no sense, and then you go to jail and the same thing happens.
I'm glad that my mom waked me up before that could happen.
I like some of the imagery here, like when you're using the phone in one scene and the monster appears. I don't like it, the jump scare one, but I do like when it appears with its eyes closed, like it hasn't noticed you yet, and then it slowly does. Like, the eye effects for that, for something so cheap, was actually effectively creepy, the way it was done. But then you have to contest with the terrible dialogue, all the fucks and shits, the shadow girl calling you fucking pop-ups. And all the obvious, blatant beating you over the head with a mallet foreshadowing. I wanted to like this game more than I did, but at the end I was just too annoyed with it. And also all the fucking jump scares, they don't add anything. In fact, they hurt the game a lot.
Jump scares
the
are
sanity meter
very
to get the
lazy.
true ending is dumb. It's just
Wake me up on itch.io. I'd rather strangle myself with a yo-yo.
I would like this developer to keep making games because there is some promise, but they desperately need to hire a writer. Desperately.
I'll do it for free. I'm not doing much.
That's all I want to say about that game. Anyone have anything else to add?
That's pretty much my opinion.
Dark.
It was...
What?
How are the tomatoes?
Yeah, the second game we played, and probably one of the better ones, was The Tomatoes Are Okay by Dan
I feel bad because I
Sanderson.
cut off Tama at the end there. Did you have any...
No, I was just doing a silly voice. It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so the second game we covered was Tomatoes Are Okay by Dan Sanderson, and it's only 10 minutes long, and I highly suggest you go play it. Turn down your volume a little slightly. It's not very jump scare heavy, but like, in fact, I don't think there's any jump scares in it until like maybe the very end. But this is mostly a weird ass mood piece, and it's kind of my jam. There, as far as story as I can tell, is you're a kid playing a game maybe, and you're in a weird VHS scan lines, color distorted world, and you're taking care of some tomatoes that you can't really make out, and a giant wall tells you the tomatoes are okay, and he's like, you earn a trophy. He's like, this is the greatest day of my life, in a very distorted tone, and he gets a pig, and then you eventually find a door, and the bad things happen.
To explain... Sorry, Doc, you were saying...
This is all... Actually, there's nothing to explain, because this is very clearly a mood piece, despite other than the mentions of some sort of mother that might be the monster, I say in quotations, that follows you throughout the game. Honestly, I like it a lot. It was very unnerving to play the entire time. It's just it reminds me of Anatomy. It's definitely in the alt game category with that. But where Anatomy was much more, was a very fleshed out final game with a narrative to it. This is much more simplistic and is just trying to experiment with different graphical options. there's less the game is corroding itself and making that in horror, and just more you're in kind of a strange place that gets stranger and more uncomfortable the further you go in it.
It was better than Wake Me Up.
What, you didn't like this?
No, I think there's kind of a threshold of how successful a very surreal 10-minute horror game can be. And this game is right at the top of that threshold, but it's still, for me personally, not a very high.
Very what?
Sorry, it's not a very high. I just stopped talking because I couldn't think of how to finish it.
I thought you were going to say hard, because that would have been strange.
Oh.
I liked it a lot. Definitely played this one. You're gonna remember this. I do like the way it structures its scares, so to say. I say in quotations because it's more like a kind of under your skin game and not a boo jump scare type of game. I like it when the creature first appears and it's just off in the distance and kind of flickers around and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then the game starts fucking with you and you like find the pig dead, and like there's a lot of great little moments in this one. This was just a really cool little 10-minute thing. I liked it.
Definitely top half in this episode.
Oh, absolutely.
I think this actually might be my favourite game of the 7.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I would compare it particularly to David Lynch. It's a very... If David Lynch made a video game, this would be the video game David Lynch would make.
No, the game David Lynch would make would be Paratopic.
It's got that... I mean, sort of earlier Lynch, sort of... If early Lynch was made... Because it's very strange atmosphere. It does a lot of what he obviously did in Twin Peaks. It's a strange game. It's more... I tell you what, this would actually work very well on, because it's sort of quite an interesting... It's something like VR. VR, I could see this game working in very well. Or somebody...
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, if somebody did a game like this, perhaps a longer... Because it's not... I would almost hesitate to call it a game. It's an interactive experience, and it is very much mood-driven. And it's certainly...
Oh, it's a game. It's a game, absolutely. You earn a trophy.
That's a trophy, there we go. I mean to say that it's more focused. It has a particular way of going about what it does, and it's got obviously a particular atmosphere, which is unfortunately more than a lot of the games that we're covering.
I'm wondering what Dan Sanderson is working on, because I really want to see more stuff from him. Maybe he had more on his page I just didn't notice.
But no,
I might go back to him. We'll see in the future. Okay, the third game we covered was a change-up, because Riders just didn't work for some reason. So I went ahead and made a judgment call and decided to get something I knew would work off Steam. A free horror game called The Static Knows My Name that made the rounds way back in like 2014 or 2015, because nobody had really seen anything like this at the time in the like mainstream audiences. This was back when Steam wasn't an open floodgate of all of the things. So like the fact this got on Steam and it was this strange and clearly trying to say something got people kind of interested in it. So I figured this would be a good excuse to finally just go ahead and give this a try. And it was made by a development studio called The Whale Husband, all in lowercase. Yeah. But it was mainly made by Jesse Barksdale. And this is weird. Unlike The Tomatoes Are Okay, though, this does have a narrative you can follow. And there's actually a lot to read into, even though it only lasts like 10 minutes as well. So, like, I think there's a lot we have to talk about with this one.
Yeah, I only have 2 main notes for this one, and one of them is a story that I should only tell if we have the time, because it's like 4 minutes long.
I'll go for it.
But, no, but the other... We'll do it at the end, maybe. But one of the... Just because it's a game about a person who's very clearly deep into depression, and the one thing that just really got me is the first thing that you see when you load up the game. Well, actually, the first thing you see is you're kind of floating and there's some static, and you walk into it, and it has someone's name, hence the static speaks my name. And then you wake up, and you're in some guy's bedroom, and I can't remember if it's the first thing you see or you sit up and see it. There's a poster on the wall that says, "Today will be a better day."
And it looked like a rage face that was disgusted.
And I don't know why, that really, really made me feel bad.
It was on the ceiling too, so he sees it every time he wakes up.
That's just the worst. Because, like, did somebody else put that up? Because they were like, "Hey, are you feeling sad? Don't worry, I've written 'Today will be a better day' on your ceiling." Boom, problem solved. Or did he do it himself, which is worse?
The game's arguably not taking place in reality. You could say it's taking place from this character's headspace, which is why there's just a stack of TVs with static in the corner and all the windows and doors are boarded shut.
Oh, and I remember the thing with the shrimp.
Shrimp. Yeah, the game's funny for the shrimp thing, because, like, oh, I'm out of food in my fridge. I better go back to my room and eat some of my shrimp babies. And also he has books like something about something about the sexual exploits of Benjamin Franklin. Actually, I have screenshots. Go ahead and keep talking while I find them.
It reminded me of that bit in Actual Sunlight, actually. There's one bit in that game where you're on a bus, except it's incredibly busy, and when you go to take a seat, it says...
Uganda and you, how a genocide might affect your weekend. Ah, yes, the autoerotica of Benjamin Franklin. I was right. Yeah, very, very dark sense of humor. Go on.
Sorry, there's that bit in Actual Sunlight when you're on a very busy bus and you go to take a seat, and it says, like, there's only one seat left, it's covered in newspaper, and the newspaper is covering up some white sticky stuff that someone left on the seat, and the game doesn't continue unless you choose yes to sit on the seat. And how that, in a way, summed up how in that game about depression was like, hey, merely existing and going about your business when feeling depressed can sometimes just feel like ongoing public humiliation. Inevitable ongoing public humiliation. And in the same way, when this guy's depressed and there's this big tank of shrimp in his room and there's pictures with shrimp and little love hearts that are like, my babies! And then when there's no food in the fridge, he goes, oh, I'll just go eat a few shrimp. It's like, hey, looks like he's stopped caring about something that he used to really, really care about and clearly brought him lots of happiness.
Deep!
This game is depressing.
What I like about the dark humor is that it gets undercut once something genuinely dark happens and you realize, oh. Though the game tells you right ahead what's coming, because when you're in the stars, it doesn't just say that guy's name, it says his cause of death, and it was a form of suicide. So, yeah. I should have put a content warning for this episode.
Yep.
Yeah, the Static Knows My Name caught a lot of attention because of this sort of twist. Its basic idea is that it's trying to give an idea of what it's like to live with depression, and like how you have that room where of all the pictures of the palm trees in different lighting and colors and all sorts of crazy notes on the wall, treating them like they're connected to something huge. And it's showing his obsession with something meaningless. Of course, the eating of the shrimp and so on and so forth. And then what you find out he has in his hidden room behind the bookcase. It's a guy. He's kept in a cage. Yeah, the game is very much about depression and suicide, and that calls back at the end when you go back in the stars. And you can see the names of various peoples and the way they've committed suicide in the stars before the title hits again. And it's this very strange mood piece that's trying to put you in a particular mindset. It's not trying to lecture you. It's not trying to say something about living, like say something directly about living with depression, like Depression Quest did. It's trying to get you in the same sort of mindset and have you understand it better that way. I guess is a good way to put it. This is definitely not something I'd recommend with someone with depression, and I didn't know where it was going to go when I first picked this out, because my understanding of it was very minor, because there actually wasn't a lot of spoilers out for it, strangely. But, yeah, this is heavy.
Yep.
Which is good, which is why I'm happy they included the shrimp, because that kind of takes the sting out of it a little. But yeah, I think this is one of the better games we played, and I'm really interested if this person did anything else, because I'd like to see more. Like, this is just a good, simple example of what you can do with the walkabout genre, like Gone Home and stuff like that. Like, games are complex, but you don't have to tell everything through mechanics. Sometimes you just have to show them through the environment and the freedom to move around it. And I think it accomplished that well. Also, the chat with the porn bot was kind of funny and also kind of horrifying.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, I forgot about that bit. There's just that. What does he even say in that chat?
Hang on, I have screenshots for that too.
Yeah, because the guy just logs onto his computer and it's like, talk to your friends, and he's just talking to one of those sex bots.
Press H to say you can feel the atoms in your body waking up.
I'm gonna see it. Press G to say you've embarrassed everyone who believed in you. This is a upbeat game.
Awkward laughs.
If you want awkward, should I do the story?
Oh, Tama, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
So yeah, that was Static Knows My Name. Fun. Let's just go ahead and move on then.
Okay.
Next is Saturdays by Pizza Makes Games, who is currently working on some sort of point-and-click adventure game right now, and I hope it goes well. And I'm glad they decided not to continue with Saturdays for a bit, because I have problems. Lots and lots of problems. I picked this one entirely because of the way it looked. It had this cool photos put through a pixel filter kind of thing going on. It reminded me sort of World of Horror, but it is not nearly as good as World of Horror, though it does have good ideas. I think this was a Game Jam game, so I'm going to be a little easier on it. And there's a lot I like the art style, some of the sound work, when you get sound. But the basic idea is that you're playing as someone living in their apartment, and then something happens, and the title screen suggests it's a meteor hitting. And then weird shit is just all around your apartment, and if you run into the wrong thing, you will die, and then the game crashes and you have to restart it, and then you play as a different character in the same building on a different floor. And then as you go on, you realize it's a point-and-click adventure game, and you're trying to find ways past these obstacles and find a way out of this building. And there is a lockbox that you can use, so if you put something in that lockbox, if you die, the next character will be able to go to that lockbox and pick that item out of it. And that's where the main puzzle mechanics come from. It's a neat idea.
All I've got in my notes is the words roommate, and then in all caps, Hugo the Dapper Skeleton. And I can't remember what I was thinking when I wrote that. Is that a thing in the game, or was I just really sleepy when I wrote it?
Hugo the Skeleton is in the game. He appears in some of the rooms that get randomly generated.
Oh, and I remember that at one point it was like, do you want to squeeze through the broken glass? Like, yeah! And then if you do, every option you have is replaced with bleed.
Yeah.
That's about it. I died a few times and then stopped.
I actually figured out a lot of the puzzles, and it's kind of clever how the game works. The problem is the randomization element, but I'll get to that. Basically, what you have to do is there are obstacles on the first, second, and third floor you have to deal with, and you need a certain combination of items to do it. Like with the bug, you need an alarm clock. Even if you have the alarm clock, you still need batteries to run it. So eventually it's doing enough loops so you have the right combination of items, or you get lucky and just have them from the start. For the door, you do need to get past it through the broken glass, but then you can use a mixture of toilet paper and an antibiotic cream, and that will create makeshift bandages that will stop the bleeding, and so on and so forth. And more puzzles appear from there, offering different items you need to get past the last store on the bottom floor, but I did not figure out how to do that because I accidentally did not put a special item I got from putting a cactus in the ground. That was a screwdriver in the box, so it didn't. So apparently that item doesn't respawn, and I don't know how I need it, but apparently I do. And I kept getting crap items that didn't get me anywhere, and eventually gave up after several hours.
And that's Saturday.
What was your experience with this, Tama?
Visually interesting game. It's a nice sort of take on a sort of a genre that does tend to be more photo. I mean, obviously, the survival horror genre has got a lot of excellent games, but it's interesting to see one where the stuff passes over, where it's interesting, and particularly where it's melded with a point and click. No, I liked it. It's a visually interesting game. I like to see, and obviously it'd be interesting to see what the guy produces next.
It's just a shame that the randomization element doesn't work. Yeah, this is sort of like a point and click mixed with a roguelike, and it has that whole you can share one item with the next character you play as thing going on for puzzles. But yeah, like the whole item randomization thing is has a really fucked up algorithm, and there'll be eventually you'll just hit a wall where you're just constantly dying, or actually just stopping the game during runs because you've already got rid of all the obstacles that can kill you, but you don't have the items you need to continue, even though you don't know what those items are yet, and you're just not getting them. You're just getting a bunch of random junk, and yeah, that's a pace killer. If they want to go back and make this game to a full game, which they played around with at one point, I checked their Twitter. They're working on a different project right now. They're definitely going to have to figure out a way to deal with that issue. And also maybe let you skip the intro cutscene faster. Because having to do that every time you die and plus start a new as a new character is super annoying. Oh my god. It would have been better instead of the game crashing, it just restarted back at the intro where you're trying to remember who you are, and then after selecting that, you can choose to skip the intro much faster and get straight to the game. But it doesn't do that, and that's very annoying.
Oh, I remembered one thing I really liked about it. Whenever you finish a line of text, instead of it just vanishing and moving to the next screen, the text is actually like erased, and then the next line comes up. It's a little touch, but I really like that.
It's not so good if you're trying to skip through text because you've seen it several times already.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot of cool things about this game, but this person, Pizza Makes Games, they have other games on their page I would suggest you try first, because this randomization element doesn't really work for me, but they have a lot of talent and I want to see more from them. The next game we have on the list here is The Long Road Ahead, which is like 5 minutes long. It won't take us any time at all to talk about it. We're just getting out of the way. It's from Cellar Vault Games, and it's about a couple who are driving on a moped, and they have to go through a dark road because the guy is an idiot, and like they get past it, and then the lady's like, "Oh no, I forgot my purse," and then they go back, and nothing spooky happens to them, and they just continue on, and the two scares are, one, the lady sees something behind the guy, and it's a lantern. Woo! A Chinese paper lantern. Woo! And then at the end, turns out there was Jiangshi in the forest, which are a type of Chinese zombies, and one of them gives you a dumb jump scare at the end of the credits, and that I don't know why.
I didn't like how, when I first started this, I really thought that the art style was pretty interesting, and in the first minute, I was like, wow, this is clearly one of the best games that we're playing. And it's still got a lot of going for it. The writing is pretty bad.
I will say that I actually think the writing's okay. It's just like trying to be a basic little ghost story you tell around the campfire, but there are some problems. Like, for one, the art style is fantastic. It's a cool, weird cutout thing they're doing. The problem is that the game is running on Unreal apparently, and it runs like garbage. Do you know how many times I had to see those character models completely load in their textures, so often I would just see them as blurs for a few seconds? It was absurd.
There is no reason for this game to be on Unreal Engine.
Yeah, there's so many better ways you could handle this. The Unreal was a bad call for this sort of thing.
And the parts where there's like cutscenes and you're watching them riding the moped, that's when the paper effect works quite well. But there's like 2 or 3 times when it goes into... I've got it written down here. Imagine one of those moments in a Telltale Games game where you're walking around, except it's Paper Mario and there is literally no animation. So it's just literally you're just watching a cardboard piece just slide around. This model.
It looks so bad. I'm normally not a big tech person, but even I found a lot of this kind of unforgivable. I'm going to be light on it because, once again, free game someone made, just kind of show off what they can do. But it leaves so little impact.
I did like how, in a way, it wasn't what I was expecting at the end. But
and then the jump scare happened.
Yeah, it's just like there is literally no payoff. Because the whole time it's like, oh man, we need to take a shortcut. Why don't we go down this spooky road? I'm thinking, well, I see where this is going, but you know, there's going to be something on the spooky road. I'm like, oh, I think I saw something on the spooky road. Oh, well, let's keep going. Then they leave the spooky road. I dropped my wallet. Let's go back. Get it. So they go back to the spooky road, and then they drive off. And then, yeah, 2 zombies just come out, and it's like, well, there they go.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point? It's like if you told the story of the guy with the hook for a hand, and you see the hook at the end on the car, except like they're playing it off as some sort of quiet mood piece. It's like, so instead of like having a bolt of lightning go down and a dramatic music sting, you play it off like a quirky indie comedy and some low-key song about growing up or depression or being a child or something is playing, and there's some like someone's looking at something in a very peculiar manner in a quirky way. That's how the finale of this game felt until the jump scare, and then I was like, no.
And it felt a bit exposition-y, even though there's not much writing, it being a 5-minute game. The part where he's driving the moped along, he says, we gotta hurry to my parents' house. We would have gotten there sooner, but I had to work overtime today, and the car broke down this morning.
Why was that even necessary?
Just have them be on... Just have them on the moped and have her say, any idea when your car's getting out of the shop? Or say, how was overtime this evening? Because that's not good, but it's better.
Yeah,
but it's not really long enough to do a particularly good mood piece. It's so short and so... the pacing's not great. I mean, this is, oh, we're on the motorway. Okay, you could have made this not a massively longer game, but at least sort of had enough time to build an atmosphere, and it's so short and so perfunctory that it doesn't really get the chance to.
I think it was successful at building an atmosphere for a while because it's keeping you in the dark for so much of it, and then you see the lantern and then you don't care.
It's like, oh, we're hard.
I mean, the goofy Chinese lantern, I understand there's some folklore reason for it to be there, but it doesn't look scary. They didn't do anything to make it seem particularly out of place. It just looked like a lantern with spooky ghost fire that wasn't spooky at all, because we've seen so much fucking anime at this point. Just like, oh, that's the fire that the fox from Inuyasha uses.
It's basically not very spooky Paper Mario. Except not Paper Mario, because it doesn't have the charm of Paper Mario, but there we go.
This one was a disappointment. I had a lot of hopes for it, but like, I don't hate it, but like, eh.
If they actually made a full game with this art style, with an overarching story, that'd be
And actual
pretty
animation.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, but this...
Yeah. This game took me to a dark place.
And speaking of... Oh, this was a fucking disappointment. Why is this game like over entire gigabyte large?
Can I please read the entire game description from Ichio this time?
Go for it.
I love it. For one thing, it starts with, in all bold, if the game files get deleted after extraction, make sure to exclude the game's entire folder in your antivirus before running the game. Always a good sign. Also, I'm going to say keys weird, because he put an apostrophe in it. Search for keys.
Keys.
Apostrophe.
Yeah.
Weird. Anyway, I gotta put on my best werewolf bar mitzvah spooky scary voice.
Men becoming boys. Boys, no, it's like boys becoming
boys
men.
becoming men.
Becoming
And men
wolves.
becoming... A Dark Place is a 2018 meta-horror that puts the player in a surreal environment, features great music and eerie areas to explore and solve puzzles in. Search for keys to open doors and progress through the game. Find all 4 music boxes and find your way to freedom. But there's one thing, don't let the corruption stop you from doing so. This game is extremely intelligent and has the ability to break the 4th wall and act like a real computer nightmare. It will interact with the computer, recognize player actions, and crash the game on purpose to create new events throughout the game, meaning you have to restart the game if that happens, and more! Please note that this game is 100% harmless in every way and is created for an amazing experience.
Sans
Imagine if
is in it. He's going to give you a bad time.
I don't... I still don't want to say any...
It's like if you took it's like if you made I'm Scared but made it bad.
It's like, imagine reading the store page... I still don't want to give any spoilers about this game, because I love it, but imagine if you were reading the store page for Doki Doki Literature Club, and it explicitly explained what it was, and all the ways in which it kind of subverts your expectations, and then it's like, oh, surprise, this happens.
Yeah, this is... I picked this game out because it looked cool, not because of that blurb, because the blurb was terrible, because... I mean, you know, we've seen this so many times by now, Doki Doki Literature Club, Masokisia did a similar thing, and I think it did it really well because there was no hint that that was going to happen at the end of the game. Remember the final thing that happens?
It's like, I'm looking at the store page for Undertale, and it just says, by the way, final boss crashes the game, and you gotta restart the game to fight the boss again.
Yeah,
Oh wait, it doesn't say that, because Toby Fox is smart.
Sans Undertale is in this game, and he shows you a bad time.
I obviously did not play this game because I like having a intact computer, and I think with my computer sort of...
it's perfectly safe. It's just bad.
As decrepit as it is, I don't want anything else that's going to damage it. So I watched 2 Let's Plays of this, and one was somehow about 7 minutes long.
I love how the intro of this game is like, hey, do you remember PT? Do you, huh? Do you remember PT?
Watch PT stood for Poo Dirt.
There's already so many indie horror games doing the PT thing now that we can't play PT and doing it much better. Why?
And the other one was...
How was the Let's Player?
And the other one was...
Keep going, Tama.
And the other one, so he was this Eastern European guy playing it, and sort of... And I think he just crashed on him and he stopped. Because obviously he didn't quite get the whole thing. And the other one was Markiplier and was nearly 2 hours long. And no, sort of all I remember of this game is the Killer Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure if not even sure now if I've watched the right game.
I have so many fucking questions about A Dark Place. I don't even know where to begin. One, Why does it run like garbage?
Why is it a gigabyte?
It has absurdly large graphical requirements. I was shocked. You can't have any other resolutions if you want to play full screen other than 1920 something. 1920 by 1080, I think. Which is bizarre. Everything looks like it's really scrunched up and way too close to it all the time, and you're not at the proper level of proper eyesight level. So it's like you're small but also not. It's strange. The graphics look highly pixelated, even though that adds nothing to the game's atmosphere after you get out of the first room. It's what? Oh, and the meta elements suck. They suck. You get little notes, little notebook notes as you continue through the game, and they're awful. And it's not like something like I'm Scared, where it just gives you vague things said by something, and you're trying to figure out puzzle. It's just like, hey, I'm in the game. Don't let him get you. And it's very heavily hinted to be like the developer of the game is like, you have to type in the thing to do the thing.
I can't say for sure that this is something from the game, but it's something that I also watched a Let's Play, and the Let's Player said that they had played a previous version of the game where one of the fourth wall breaks was literally just shutting down your computer. And that's just... And even then, because I watched him then play the non-shutting down computer version, and all that happened is like 50 text boxes like suddenly shot up that just said, "Ooh, I'm still here," and it slowed his computer down, and he had to, take time to close all of them. I feel like sooner or later someone is actually going to make a game like this. I've written Walt Williams in my notes, but no, I'm not going to say Walt Williams. But somebody's going to make a game like this where it just intentionally puts a virus on your computer. And there's going to be a split.
I love that John Oldblood, the guy who made Masochistia, wanted to do something just like that at one point in development, but he quickly figured out, oh, that's a bad idea.
Yes. I feel like there would be a split between people who are like, this is really immersive and it really subverts the expectation that there wouldn't be real-life consequences for my actions. And there'd be a split between that and, you just broke my fucking computer, you fucking bellend!
All you just need is a version of this is just delete System 32 off the computer.
And then just anyone who complains to the dev be like, oh hey, admit it, you were scared, weren't you?
For some reason, to me, this feels like a really bad remake of I'm Scared. It even has a similar Skullman going thing now, except instead of just the skull face, it's Sans Undertale from Undertale. And he might also be the Shadow Man, because you see that thing on the wall where it's like, Shadow Man equal Sans Undertale.
But hey, that's just a theory.
Here at Game Theory, we do the game theory about the game theory.
I try to be nice about these sorts of things because it's coming from like solo developers or small studios just throwing something out there, but like Dark Place makes it challenging.
We can give, I guess, some constructive criticism. Like, horror games work in many ways because there's some build-up before the horror. And
I don't know. I actually do like the way the game starts out. I mean, yeah, it is shamelessly ripping off PT, but then you're just in a room where you can't see anything except for a music box and a door. You can't go out the door. So you figure, maybe if I play the music box, because you don't want to go in that darkness, even though you eventually find out later if you do go into the darkness, it's just corners. Nothing to be scared of. And then the knocking starts and things start getting weird. And it's actually kind of effective where you have a long hallway until Sans Undertale comes out. You're like, woo! And then hits you, and then he makes the screen flicker with his face. Or like, woo! Gotcha! Woo! And then the game stops, and you have to start it again. And And eventually this leads you to the tree lobby, and then the game crashed on me in the dumbest way imaginable, and I had to start it to go back to the tree lobby. Oh, and let's talk about how bad, why does when you enter the tree area, instead of just having you enter the tree area and waking up there, it has to write out in the worst font imaginable other than Comic Sans, main lobby, on the middle of the screen. Like, are you trying to make me think that this is a computer thing? Because you're just making me think you don't know how to use fonts. This game is so fucking annoying.
I would give this game a don't play out of 10.
Oh, I should mention that when it tells you in one of the notes that you have to type in a certain thing to get the item you need to continue, I didn't know how to bring up what was it? It's like the developer panel or something like that, like the
control panel.
No, not your computer's control panel. The thing in the game, like a debugging thing where you can type in stuff. Like, this is something that those Cinderella Escape games I occasionally bring up have in them. The developer just left them in there for people to put in cheat codes, which is neat. But like, I think you're supposed to do that with this game, but I didn't know how to bring it up, and I didn't care to find out and continue the game. So yeah, I didn't like A Dark Place. Oh, I should mention it was by Search Studios, and I hope they never make something like this again. And it, like, they have some talent, great sound design. If the graphics weren't making you feel like the biggest little person in existence, I would say good things about the graphics. But like, you're wasting your talents with this. Come on, you can do something more interesting than, what if we just made every single popular indie horror game among Let's Players with Sans Undertale? No.
Do you have any advice regarding whether people who play A Dark Place should freak or not?
It's time!
Perfect segue again.
It's the Freak Run, and here's Party Freak. Freddy Freaker, dancing new sensation, grabbing the nation, doing the freak call now. 1-900-490-FREAK, join the party the fast and easy way. Hear what's getting from New York to LA. 1-900-490-FREAK, what's happening, what's jamming, party till you drop. Dial in, hear the action, what's hot and what's not. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK, $2 a call. I had that written out in my notes.
Holy shit, dog.
We need to talk about Freddy Freaker for a second, because this is my favorite thing on the internet ever. Freddy Freaker was a 80s commercial for some sort of phone line thing when like pay lines were a big thing. And it was, and this dancing Muppet thing came up called Freddy Freaker, who did this terrible dance where he couldn't move his legs, so he just moved his upper body around with his arms out, and it was amazing. And this terrible song played, and it wasn't clear what the phone line was for.
Freaking.
And apparently the guy who made this doll mentioned that he was just like hired commission to make this thing for this line, and that was it. And that should have been it. But the internet got a hold of this commercial and just kind of went really crazy with it. I know for a fact that Grawley, who's making that Golden Girls RPG right now, I've known him online for a few years, so I knew him before it was cool. He loves this thing, and I told him about this game, and he was so happy. But yeah, someone who decided to make their first game and decided to make a Slender clone based off Freddy Freaker, and they called themselves Rabbit Run Games. And I love the credits for this game because I forgot to write down the actual names of the people who did this, but I like the one the last credits is special thanks to so and so for trying to talk me out of making this. I'm glad that guy failed.
I don't think it's fair to call this a rip-off of Slender. Given that Freddy Freaker is 80s nostalgia, it's really a rip-off of Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's both.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a ripoff. It's just straight up parody because this game has absolutely no. It does not take itself seriously at all. It literally starts with the fucking commercial. No, it starts with a screen. Hang on, I have the screen right here. The amazing fucking screen. This made me laugh so hard when I first saw it. There it is. Freddy Freaker's tips number 329. Don't freak, it's best enjoyed with headphones on. And there's this artist rendition of Freddy's head, and it's just adorable. It's like they knew what they were doing. They fucking knew what they were doing. And then the intro starts with the actual ad playing, cut with dramatic horror movie style text cuts with static in between, horrible things happened at Freakerland, and then go back, and then it goes back to the commercial. Here, what's scared from New York to LA? And I'm like, they knew. They fucking knew.
I don't want to disagree with you, but I actually did quite a lot of research into this game, and I've uncovered a whole bunch of different stuff. I'm not sure. Sounds like we're talking about two different things.
Oh, what did you play?
Don't Freak was a single released in 1996 by the band No Doubt from the album Tragic Kingdom. It's nominated for Song of the Year at the 1998 Grammys, and it was #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 Airplay charts for 16 weeks.
I could buy No Doubt hiding out in the woods and scaring and freaking people.
Don't freak, I know just what you're saying.
When you die in this game, the game over you get Freddy winking at you, and then the game over message is you got freaked.
Which is the best game ever
There are
screened of
3
all time.
freak phones to collect. I love.
It actually happens when you beat the levels, because I gave up.
I did too, because I got all the fun I needed out of this. But I want to try the other episodes as they get released, because apparently they're going to introduce original Freddy OCs.
Do not.
And I'm like, yes, more. But yeah, I like some of the stuff you can pick up, like some of the documents. They seem like perfectly normal things you find in a horror game. Just like little hints at horrible things that happen. Except occasionally you'll see a quote from the fucking commercial, or that one phone call where the guy is describing people are scared of stuff, and the one is like, I don't know, maybe something freaky's going on. This game had and left me with a big dumb smile on my face the entire time I was playing it. I love whenever Freddy's near, music starts playing and it's just the Freddy Freak song except slowed down a lot. They knew what they were doing. That's fantastic. This is the perfect joke game. It knows what it is, and it's just it's not trying to make fun of anything. It's just here's this dumb thing we all really love. Let's do something as stupid as humanly imaginable with it.
I enjoyed this greatly.
I wish that
there's not enough of this kind of game. The sort of obviously the slender. I know Five Nights at Freddy's is a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's not usually played this much for laughs. And the atmosphere.
Yeah, because they're not parodies.
No, this atmosphere of this game is just perfect. It's the epitome of the 80s.
I'm so glad this was his first game, because this is the first game that people wish they could make. Because it just makes people happy. This was so immensely entertaining. I just knew I had to save it last for discussion because it's special. It's so special. I've not seen... The indie scene gets so full of itself sometimes, which I normally love because they can do the stuff that larger studios are too scared to do or won't do out of fear of alienating their public. But sometimes you just need a scary rendition of the Freddy Freaker song in the woods, and then a message saying that you got freaked, and that's all you need.
You need
that. This gave me that. This might be the only good meme-based game ever. Because it's not just repeating the same joke, it's having fun with the joke in kind of creative ways I was impressed by. And plus, Freddy Freaker is the new sensation grabbing the nation.
I can't work up any dislike against this game, but it was the kind of game, it was funner to watch than to play. I played it, and then I watched a bit to see, like, hey, what happens in level 2? And,
yeah, that's perfectly fine. Like, this is a free joke game. They're not trying to make waves. They're just like, do you like Freddy Freaker? Here you go. Oh god. So yeah, this was an interesting collection of games. I'm not so hot about a lot of them, but others surprised me in ways I wasn't expecting. Like, I had high hopes for Don't Freak being like some really terrible bad thing, but it ended up being just a fucking delight. Let's go ahead and do rankings. Who wants to rank these from worst to best? I'm sure each of us will have a different list. Remember, the games we played were Wake Me Up, The Tomatoes Are Okay, The Static Knows My Name, Saturdays, The Long Road Ahead, A Dark Place, and Don't Freak Part 1.
Oh, jeez. I can go. I'm improvising along the way.
I know which one you're
so
going
many
to
of these. So many of these are so, I'm going to say, similar in terms of quality. I guess I could say joint last would be A Dark Place and Wake Me Up.
Yeah, I'd agree with
Fair
that.
enough.
Then, let's see. I'm having to scroll up and down to remember what they were. Then probably Long Road Ahead.
Yeah.
Then probably The Tomatoes Are Okay. Then Saturdays. Then Don't Freak. And then The Static Speaks My Name.
Yeah, that sounds fair. What about you, Tama?
I would say definitely. I did not play The Static Speaks My Name because reasons.
Understandable.
The two that I probably put them all at about the same, apart from The Tomatoes and Freddy Freaks, which I probably put second and first respectively.
Okay. For me, I would definitely put A Dark Place at the bottom because it actually made me mad. And none of the other games actually did that to me, just that one. It's just like, it's not, I can't even say it's creative and has cool ideas because it's just ripping off everyone. It's just ripping off a bunch of other people who have done this all better. And it's weird because there's so much effort put into it, but in all the wrong ways. That is definitely the worst one for me. I'm going to go ahead and put The Long Road Ahead next because it was just such a nothing thing for me. It's a shame because I love the art style, but that's not really enough to make up for just the complete vapidness of it. I would put Wake Me Up next. I like its art style, and I think it accomplishes what it's trying to do a bit better than A Long Road Ahead, and I like its sound design a lot, but yeah, there's no excusing that writing. Let's see. What would I put in the middle? Because I know it's not going to be Don't Freak or Tomatoes Are Okay. Or, you know what? I'm going to put Saturdays in the middle because it's very annoying to play once you hit that wall. But there are a lot of cool ideas I want to see fleshed out with this. Like, Pizza Makes Games, that is a really cool idea you had. Try perfecting it. I want to see more stuff from you. I'm going to put... crap, let me think here. Yeah, I'm going to put The Static Knows My Name the third best because I think it's the most complete of all of these, but it didn't quite grab me in the same way as the other two did, if that makes sense. And I kind of take umbrage with a game about depression and suicide, having you end the game with a suicide. Actual Sunlight did not do this. It left things ambiguous, and because the person who made it and it's an autobiography is alive, you know they didn't go through with it, and that made it stronger to me. But The Static Knows My Name, I like what it's trying to do, and I like its tone, but I think it kind of fails at its larger message, if that makes sense. I'm going to put The Tomatoes Are Okay second because that game genuinely got under my fucking skin. That is a good horror game. That is good, uncomfortable horror in like a really surreal way. And now I kind of want to play Paratopic finally because I hear it's very similar. It involves VHS tapes turning people into flower heads. I will not explain that. And of course, Don't Freak is my number 1, which I am surprised by because I thought that was going to be much lower, even though that was the one I was most excited by. But no, it's genuinely fun little parody game. Kudos for this. This was someone's first game, and it's quite a first game. I want more. Give me the Freddy OCs. Give me the Freddy OCs and give them original songs that are awful. Yeah. Freak phones, 1 out of 3.
You want that t-shirt now, don't you?
I want a Freddy Freaker t-shirt, yes. Okay, that wraps up our episode, so let me tell you all what we're doing next time. We're going back to another regular episode. I have first pick as usual. So I have decided we are going to play 2 games. Don't worry, they're very short. They are by Sasha Darko. That's what he calls himself. His real name is Alexander Kibanov, a Russian music producer from the city of Ostrix, which is literally radioactive. I'm not joking. There's actually Google it, Ozersk. There's a whole crazy story with that city. He's actually written for Hardcore Gaming 101 once. I found this out. Yeah, when I picked out these games, I found out that he actually written for the site. He wrote something about like some old Atari game called Alley Cats. That's just and like the screenshot he chose for the preview image was like a cat on a piece of cheese. I was like, okay. Apparently he does YouTube reviews along with doing a lot of electronic music stuff, and he likes the Mega Drive a lot and actually made a game for the Mega Drive. So basically, this person is the coolest person who's ever lived. He has 2 games on Steam, and these are the ones we're playing. The first one is Sacred Line Genesis, a remake of an old visual novel he did, kind of a kinetic novel called Sacred Line that he made for the Mega Drive and later remade for PCs. And the other one is The Last Dogma, a game that he compares to like Southland Tales for some reason and Twin Peaks. That, from what I can tell, appears to be some sort of strange riff on the Stanley Parable, so I'm really interested in what these 2 games even are. Like, we're going deep indie here. We're going like the real deal indie here.
We're going from games from a radioactive Russian city originally released for the Mega Drive, made by a musician who may or may not have worked for the same site you did.
No, he did.
Oh, wow.
He advertises it on his site.
Oh my god.
When I was pitching covering these games to my editor, I actually pointed out, hey, he did an article for us. That's great. So yeah, that's what we'll be playing next time. Hopefully Danny will be here to help us out. How should we end this episode?
Freddy Freaker.
I got nothing.
Yeah, of course I'm going to end it with the Freddy Freaker song. What else? Anything else?
You've collected one of 3 freak phones.
90 freak, join the party, the fast and easy way. You hear what's scamming from New York to LA. Call now, 1-900-490 freak. What's happening? What's jamming? Party till you drop. Dial and hear the action. What's hot and what's not? Call now, 1-900-490 freak. $2 a call.